characteristics. It can be very, very bad. And why can it be very, very bad?
That's incest.
Curly?
That's incest. I think.
Well, yeah, but why is it bad?
Things go wrong.
Why do things go wrong?
Because they're probably it's in the same shape.
Very good, Megan. You have the mutations. So if you, like if the mom has a recessive, she passes it to her son, and then they breed together, the chances of that child having a genetic defect are very, very likely, okay? So that's why it can be very good, but it can also be problematic, all right? All right, something called hybridization is a breeding technique that involves crossing dissimilar individuals to bring together the best traits of both organisms. Does anybody know an example of an animal that is a hybrid?
Mule.
Okay, I'm thinking something else from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh.
Liger, lion and tiger. Now, lions and tigers obviously are very, very close, and they're in the cat family. But in order to reproduce efficiently over time, you need to be of the same species. Well, lions and tigers are not of the same species. You can breed them and produce a hybrid, but that hybrid will be sterile, so they can't further produce ligers. Okay. An example of this is it's going to come up on the screen. What is this over here?
Bison.
A bison or a buffalo. Okay. Then we have a bull or a cow. And then the result is something called a beefalo. Okay? So what happens is you get the best of both. Okay? You get a very meaty product. You may get a milk-producing cow, or if it's a bison that's a female, you produce it with a meaty cow, or a meaty bull, I should say, and you get a very, very meaty individual that gives you a very good product. Now, how many people have ever had bison? Has anybody ever had bison? Okay, a lot of, I know Red Robin has a bison burger. Okay, they actually do have buffalo burgers at Red Robin. Okay, I've never had it, so I don't know what it tastes like, but I've heard it's very low in fat, which is interesting because these animals are huge. All right. All right, can you tell, how can you tell that these puppies are inbred? Do you know? By looking at them? There's some characteristics which suggest that they're inbred. You really can't tell, okay? But you can tell that they're a pure breed, mostly because they don't have different colors, okay? Sometimes when you mix, you know, two different colored parents of retrievers, you're gonna get like chocolate labs, black labs, yellow labs, okay? All right, now, variation. What does the word variation mean? Does anybody know? Laura?
Kind of like differences?
Yeah, differences, okay? So we have variation between ourselves. Obviously, I'm taller than a lot of other people. My hair color is different than a lot of you, your hair color. I have wavy hair. Some people may have curly hair. So we all have different variations among ourselves. But we can increase that through a couple different things. And we might want to increase it to get mutations. Now, you might say, well, I thought mutations were bad. Mutations aren't necessarily bad, okay? They can be good, because mutations can actually produce new species, or they can give you the better adaptations. So you can do this through the use of chemicals, or you can use this through the use of radiation. Now, the first time that they ever induced a mutation was through a fruit fly, and they did a lethal mutation. Now, plants can also have mutations as well, and the reason why they might want to do plant mutations was there's I think it's called sweet clover. Sweet clover has a clotting mechanism, which you might think, okay, well, that's good. And too much sweet clover can actually coagulate your blood. Now, what kind of grazing animals would eat sweet clover? Cows. And if they eat too much of it, their blood could clot. So what they've done now is they want to induce a mutation that does not produce this coagulation. So they're actually trying to introduce this so that the cows don't die. All right, producing new kinds of bacteria. Why would treating bacteria with radiation be useful in getting mutants? Well, Everybody remembers last year the oil spill, correct? Okay, in the Gulf. And one of the things that they do is they treat bacteria with radiation. And when they do that, they produce a mutation that is going to give them a digesting bacteria that is going to naturally digest oil. So what you can do is you can add this bacteria to the water and it lives off the oil. It wants to eat the oil and it can help naturally clean up an oil spill. So this is a very good use of a mutation. All right, another one is producing new kinds of plants. Something called polyploid means that it's many sets of chromosomes. Okay, how many remember the DNA extraction from the strawberries that we did? Okay. Now, if we would have done that with our cheek cells, we wouldn't have got as good of a result. The reason why is we only have 2 sets of chromosomes. We're diploid, okay, in our cheek cells. So by using strawberries, they are actually octoploid. Does anybody know how many that would have been?
8.
So they have 8 sets of chromosomes. That's a lot of DNA. So we were able to get a lot of sample from that. Okay? It's really unknown why plants can handle extra chromosomes. They just can. And a lot of plants are polyploid. How many sets of chromosomes do you think a triploid plant has?
3.
3. Good. Okay, tri means 3. Now, daylilies are an example of a polyploidal plant. Okay, they have many sets of chromosomes. Normally, you only have 2, but a lot of plants have more than that. Polyploidy may instantly produce new species of plants that are often larger and stronger than their diploid relatives. This is a very good mutation. For example, if you have a tomato that is just kind of like so-so, but then it mutates and produces larger tomatoes, that would be a useful mutation. Any questions so far? All right. So let's kind of review what I've went over, because I've gone over the basic concepts pretty quickly. Who can give me one example of selective breeding so far? George.
Like if you're breeding 2 champion dogs for horses or show.
Very good. Okay, you want to do that. Now, there's also artificial breeding, which is a type of selective breeding that we technically select the best individuals. Okay, we can do this producing a cow that has more meat and milk. Okay, by taking a cow that has a very high production of milk and a very meaty bull and crossing them. Okay, that's artificial selection. You want to relate genetic variation and mutations to others. Okay, how can you do that? What do the 2 terms have to do with each other? Genetic variation is what? It's variation of the genes, right? And mutations are linked to that. Mutations are a varying of the genetic code in a certain way. It can be harmful, it can be beneficial. How might a breeder induce mutations? I talked about 2.
Using chemicals or radiation.
Using chemicals and radiation. And there's another one that we didn't really approve of. Inbreeding. Okay, very good. And then lastly, what is polyploidy?
Many sets of chromosomes.
Many sets of chromosomes. Very good. All right, so let's take a look at the genetic structure, how we're going to manipulate DNA. Okay, this is pretty cool. All right, genetic engineering is the process of making changes in the DNA code of living organisms. Okay, so right here we see, we see the DNA molecule. Right? It has its double helix twist, and we know that this is a very, very, very large molecule. Okay, you know it's a very, very large molecule. Now, we want to take parts of this and use it to find out paternity tests, to crimes, to a whole host of different things that we can do. So to do that, we need to do the DNA extraction. Now, DNA extraction is very simple. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me go back. DNA extraction is very simple. We did this in here with only a couple different things. Okay, so it can be very, very easy to do. But what happens is cells are opened up and the DNA is removed by simple chemical procedures. We did that with the salt and soapy water, broke up the cell, and then what happened is we poured the alcohol in it and it brought up the DNA. Okay? All right, so once we extract the DNA,